The mean and standard deviation one? Or you mean on the quiz? Sorry. Oh, that's sort of like the one we were just talking about. So you have to remember what, so we have a normal curve, and you have to remember what this means. What does that mean?
21st percentile.
21st percentile. So it would be the z-score that has how much area where?
The left. The left.
How much?
21% to the left.
21%, yeah. So we're looking for that z-score, right? Okay. So, which one was that? Okay, good. I want to make sure it wasn't number 2. So you try to find that, you get as close as you can. I think this was really close. And you know it's going to be, is it going to be in the positive or the negative?
Negative.
Yeah, because it's below the mean. I like it. So the one mistake you guys made a lot was the one that you asked about just a minute ago. Top 8% would have to be, so that problem says label the top 8%, that would be here. And then you would look up 0.92 in the body. Right? So some of you guys are putting it down at the bottom. Well, that's the bottom 8%, I want the top 8%. Okay. By the way, in case you came in after I said this, up next to where it says show your work, there's a grade in blue ink, and that's your current average, not including homework.
Average on like in the class in general, or like on the.
That's your current average, yeah. Does that make sense? Current average, not counting homework.
The quiz is in the test.
Yes, there you go. The average of the quiz and the
Okay.
test.
I don't know why that is.
Yes.
So how much is like homework worth? Like if I didn't do any of the homework, how would my grade?
I always am
Not that
curious how long into the semester somebody will ask me that question, because on the syllabus, homework is a part of the quiz. Is homework and quiz average, correct?
Yeah.
So here's the sneaky little thing. Homework is worth 5%. 5% affects you more than you think. So after this next test, I'm going to give you an actual full sheet of grades. It's going to have on there your average, what homework I think I'm missing, what your average would be if you had turned in no homework, if you turned in all the homework. You can see what the range is. So it can still affect you, but homework should never be a large percentage of your grade. I think other teachers make it worth like 30% and then they never look at it. And that kind of drives me crazy, but we won't get into that. In a perfect world, of one semester I made homework worth nothing. Can you guess what happened?
We did that.
Nobody did their homework and they died on the first test. And I said, well, I think that was the 3rd semester I was teaching. I was like, maybe I should do that, man. Homework should just be where you get practice. I shouldn't have to, man, if they don't do it, they're already screwing themselves. Why would I hurt them again? And then I went, oh shit, all right, shit. So I had to make a little correction. Let's make homework worth something.
Are we asking questions about like different tests?
Yeah, right now it's kind of like the quiz, I think. So while you guys still have that quiz to look at, and then we can transition into homework questions, questions from the practice test. Right? Everybody's got a practice test.
So when you asked for, in this quiz specifically, did you want percentages or did you want decimals?
Oh, so I always say I want probability is 4 decimal places, right? And then you can make a percentage after that if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either technically.
Technically either, yes.
Tuesday is when all of our testing quiz corrections are due, correct?
Yeah, so the first test and the quiz corrections, they're due. That's right. And the homework, of course, is due. Homework corrections aren't due to the day of the final, so you got time on those.
Oh, the homework corrections aren't due until the day of the final?
Yeah, man!
Oh, okay.
One reason I do that is because as Has everybody gotten all their graded homework back? No. In fact, you guys give it to me on the day of the test, in which case it now is my lowest priority. Does that make any sense? Because then the next test is coming, I'm getting new homework turned in, that's my priority. So if I made homework corrections due the day of the test, everybody would almost automatically be late in a lot of it. Plus the final's cumulative, so anything you do is good before the final.
And the final's on all of everything.
Everything, all of everything, that's right.
We get a formula sheet for that.
Dudular. We're gonna make a formula sheet for that. That's a beautiful segue into what we'll do now is to make a formula sheet for this test. Beautiful segue. What's this test gonna cover again? Chapter
4, 5, 6, 7.
4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. Look at that way I did 6, 7, that was awesome. It sounds like a lot, but each one has like 2 or 3 sections, so it's not like, you guys can feel how you want to. You remember chapter 4? That was roughly 3.7 billion years ago. Chapter 4 was stuff like this, the XP of X stuff, right? What kind of drives me crazy is if I give you an XP of X chart, don't be throwing any NPQ shit in there, right? Why would you use anything to do with NPQ? I want to use formulas that deals with X's and P of X's, don't I? I mean, that's, on that level, that's how you identify formulas to use within a given problem, right? So this would be like I give you a table, XP of X, and then this guy is this weird dude. Alright, so this is your official formula sheet. And again, if you want to, you can just add it to your old formula sheets. So this is the first part of chapter 4, and then we got into binomial. Binomial is this stuff here. And it's got the best mean and standard deviation formula that you ever did see. It's pretty damn nice. Don't need no tape. Yeah, dude. Oh yeah, we're not done yet, right? Awesome. Okay. So this is chapter 4.
Can we label chapter 4? Like do
No. Ah. So yeah, very few words allowed on your formula sheet. You can put formula sheet on it. Yeah, I think we covered that. Okay, you can put your name on it. That's okay. Put a line on it if you want to. Chapter 5, there's really not that much. I really am not gonna ask you the mean and the standard deviation of a uniform. That was in the homework. I had a problem like that on the practice test. Just because. So don't even write this down. Remember that the a plus b over 2 and the square root of b minus a squared over 12. Everybody remembers the 12. I love it. So don't even write this down. I'm not gonna ask you that. So if I do, you can come up and just full on slap me, right? Yeah, my permission, it's on video. Chapter 6 brings this guy back. We also become a sigma. And then we also took them apart, put them back together again. That's chapter 6. That's crazy. That's the quiz that you guys just got back. Most people did well. Some people did very poorly. So I don't know if it's a homework thing, not enough time to get that done.
that's this quiz, right?
This last quiz, yeah. And then chapter 7 is where we learn this stuff. Now, I don't think I ever wrote this down. Well, let me write this down. I don't like, well, okay. When we change the standard deviation, our data points are now sample means. So you can go all crazy and do this shit. Personally, I think this makes it more confusing. Just in case you saw that in the book somewhere. So it's always the point. I'm interested in minus the middle divided by the spread. Whatever the middle and the spread are, all right? So that formula fundamentally never changes. So again, my suggestion is you don't have to write that down if you want to. Does everybody see how these are the same formulas? Right.
This chapter 7 is kind of like, I don't wanna say it's the same thing as like.
No, you should. Say it's the same thing.
Like the same thing.
Yes, it's very much like the same thing. Chapter 6 is using normal distributions to find the probability that an individual falls somewhere on the picture. Chapter 7 is the same thing, but the probability that a group falls somewhere on their picture. And their picture is different. Because if I take groups, more of them are going to have averages close to the real overall average. That was the whole thing about freaky ass Florida and the little island and whatever, right? If I take a group, there's probably going to be mixtures, which means their average will probably be close to the real average. That's why it kind of becomes more normal. This is it, right? Any formulas you think I missed? I'm open to suggestions right now. Otherwise, this is all you can have on adding. You can use all your old formulas too if you want to.
We add the notation for the probability distributions. So like.
Oh.
And then the little squiggle and.
No. By the way, I mean, that's some weird little thing this book does, to be honest. I'm never going to ask you that question.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So again, there's not a lot of choices for free stats textbooks. This was the best one out of those few choices. And so there's a lot of little things I disagree with and don't necessarily do myself, but it's freaking free. Yes?
Are we gonna get the answer key for the practice test?
Yes, I have it. Did I get it? Did I bring it with me? That would be so useful if I brought it with me. You did it, Jeff. You did it. All right. So there it is, and I'm not going to give it to you yet because I'm an asshole. Anything else specific? Yes.
When are we gonna get our progress reports?
So after test 2. After test 2, I'll give you like a summary sheet of grades. On the quiz, do you see above where it says show your work?
Yep.
There's an extra little grade. That's your current average, not counting homework.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And anytime you ever wanted to, you could email me and say, hey, what's my current average? You can come to my office, you can do all kinds of stuff. Yep. Today's going to be interesting. So there's your formula sheet. Everybody's got a practice test, correct? Okay. Anybody have questions from the practice test or from homework or general questions about why something works the way it does? Or you want to do an example problem of something? Or yes?
Let's do an example problem from section 4.3 where it's like, x, the probability of like x is greater or less than something.
Yeah. All right. Everybody's got the formula sheet stuff? Okay. So, if we said probability stats student goes insane over the course of a semester, is 82%.
It's like a really high percentage.
But yes, it is.
Insanity.
But you know, there's levels of insanity, so that's just the first level, so you'll be fine. Just make something up on the fly, alright? If we take a random sample of 28 stat students, what's the probability that, let's say less than 26 go insane? Alright, so getting over however you feel about my choice of problem, I'm just making something on the fly. Why is that suck directly? Why would I never want to do that problem directly? Do you even know what I mean by that? What does this specifically ask me to find? X less than 26. So what's less than 26?
1, 2, 0, 1, 2.
0, so I have to find the probability of 0. 1, I have to find the probability of 1. 2, probability, okay, less than 25. Holy shit. Do you want to do the formula that many times?
No.
No? Right? And you're like, that tutor told me about binomial PDF, Jen. I don't give a shit. It's a nice way to check your work. But pushing buttons is not doing work. So how the hell do I want to do this then? What's the opposite of this?
26, 27, 28.
Yeah. How many times do I have to do the formula for this?
3.
3. That's much better than 26 odd times, right? So what would the formula look like? So this is basically 3 problems right here, right? I want for 26, 27, 28. So what would the formula look like for 26? And real quick, before I go too far, do I just always do 1 minus? Hell, if this would have said x less than 1 or x less than 2, I'm gonna do that. X less than 2 is 0 or 1. That's only 2 formula. I could do that. If I do the opposite, that's 2 or more. Damn, up to freaking 28. I don't want to do that. So this is not me telling you that this is the way to do it. This is what you are allowed to do if the question involves too much work. Look at the opposite. Is the opposite better? So what is this piece of this? How do I set this formula up? 28. Choose.
26.
26.
0.82.
Good. P is 0.82.
To the power of 26.
Yeah, you want 26 successes. What's the probability of failure?
0.18 to the power of 2.
Yes, the other 2 people. I like. I have a feeling that's going to be, I don't know, to be honest. It feels like it's going to be possibly pretty small. Let's see what that is. Can you guys all do that? Let's all see if we get the same thing. Oh, not too bad. Okay. I was worried it was going to be me, dude, but not quite yet. What's up, sir?
Oh, I forgot my calculator.
Oh,
I
shit.
don't know how to use those.
Oh, you've got a
That's
Casio?
exactly weird, yeah, it's a Casio, so I have no idea how to use the.
Do you know how to get that in your calculator?
In my calculator, yeah, but not
Okay.
in that one.
Understood.
I do.
As long as you know how to get it with yours. You like this guy? Okay. Anybody get that answer? Yeah. And then I do the formula again for 27. I do the formula again for 28. Then I add up those things I got, and then I subtract that from 1, because this is going to answer the opposite question. Is that all right? So yeah, there were a few of those in the homework, and some of you guys, I love how some of you guys are like, I like that question, but I'm going to make my own question. I think you meant to say exactly. So I love how some of you guys just wrote in your homework, probably exactly 4, and I'm like, no, it said more than 4. Wait a minute. Well, this is easier, Jeff. I tried to pick the problems out that weren't going to make you do, 15 of the formulas or something. Maybe like 4 formulas at most. Okay. By the way, just to let you know, in case anybody's, I have no idea, we're still kind of in the nuts and bolts part. Just figuring out how things work, what things mean. We're about, after this next test, we're gonna get into the, how do clinical studies work? Could we interpret their findings? What do they mean? What do their findings mean? How do I know if they're statistically significant? How does that connect to all the shit we've been talking about? If we have time, I might even have you guys test each other out to see if you have ESP using our statistical methods. Everybody knows ESP? Yes, maybe. ESP? No? It's not like another channel of ESPN. It's ESP is extrasensory perception, which is where you're able to, for one thing, you could read somebody's mind. Have you ever seen the original Ghostbusters? Anybody?
We're not that young.
What do you mean? No, I've seen the first movie ever made, and I'm not that old, so I don't know. The first Ghostbusters, not the thing that happened recently, but the first Ghostbusters, where they were using the little cards, and it had a little star on it, a little circle, a little river. So they would look at it, and the other person's supposed to tell them if they can see it, right? I'm going to do exactly that with you. Have you guys kind of pair up and test each other to see if you have ESP. Like 3 years ago, I had this girl, it was a different room, but she sat right there. She teamed up with somebody. She got an abnormally high number of correct guesses. And I said, if anybody does that, I'm going to work with you directly. And I did it again, and she got the same. And I'm like, I got to wear my tinfoil hat when I'm giving a test, or you're just going to be like, oh, that's the answer. Anyway, so that was interesting. That was very interesting. Anyway, sorry. There used to be a contest where if you could show that you have ESP, you could have gotten $1 million, but they stopped the contest because nobody could do it. Sounds like somebody's heard of it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was a whole side thing. Just so you know. Yeah.
For that problem, why would we include 26 when it's not less than or equal to?
Yeah, so the original problem, does the actual problem include 26? Does this problem include 26? No. So the opposite, should the opposite have 26 in it? Yes. Does that make sense?
The opposite would be x greater than.
Or equal to.
Or equal to?
Of course, think about it. If I said less than 10, does that include 10? No. So the opposite better include 10. Okay. So the opposite of less than 26 is greater than or equal to 26. Okay. Is that all right? And everybody's cool with the fact that, I mean, we didn't finish this. I mean, if you desperately want me to, we could finish this, but we talked about what to do. So
You take all those numbers that equal that,
Yeah.
add them, and then minus, 1 minus it.
So you do 27, you do 28, get a number, you would add all these up, that would be this, 1 minus that, answer. So you first answer the opposite question. So that involves getting all these, adding them up, and then you do 1 minus that to answer the original question. That is beautiful. It's always nice to have a way to do it if the original thing they want is too much work, isn't it? It's so nice. You're not used to that math. Anything else? You guys looked at the practice tests? You might not have had time to do them yet, but I thought number 4 would be freaky. I thought number 3 might be a little bit freaky. I'm hoping number 5 is pretty straightforward, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Really the same thing with number 6. I don't know, it depends. You guys have to tell me how you feel about those.
I still want those from you.
What's that?
A practice test, can I still want? Let's do 3 and 4 then, just for funsies.
Woo! Well, I mean, who's tried number 3 yet on the practice test? Has anybody tried any of the practice tests yet? All right. So let me ask you guys a question. If you currently have no questions, you should right now just be trying the practice test out, generating some questions. Does that make sense? Today is the day to get all the questions answered that you have, so you're as ready as you can be for the test.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's not on the practice test.
Cool.
I haven't looked at the practice test yet, but it's about chapter 5. I know you said we're not gonna do much in it, but, I don't really understand how to get the area of the distribution if the boundaries are not within, like, if it doesn't start at 0. Like, there's like.
The only problem if it doesn't start at 0 is be careful about what the height's gonna be. Right? So, yeah, most of the problems in that homework they don't start at 0, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we're. So if I had a uniform curve from 7 to 29. What drives me a little crazy is I'll ask you this question on the test and I'll say, draw the distribution, indicate the height. What would the height be for this?
1/22.
Yeah, right? Because this is 22 wide. So it's gotta be the reciprocal to make the whole area 1. But this is all they put. Is this good?
No.
Shit, no. I mean, the whole thing is missing, right? Okay, sorry. But it just happens often enough that I'm like, all right, I've gotta make a point of saying that. It's sort of like not drawing the normal curve. If I ask you to draw the distribution, right? So now, if I ask you a question like, what's the probability x is greater than 20? Can you draw that slice in your distribution? Greater than 20, so I'm going to shade sickle. Why don't I shade past that?
It's not.
Yeah, you could say I did. There, I shaded past that. It's just 0. There's nothing out there, so it's not going to give me anything. So then it really, I don't know if you guys really believe me or anything. It really is just the area of that. It's just a big rectangle, right? There's no, you can make a little formula, but who gives a shit about the formula? It's how wide is it?
9.
9 times how tall is it?
1/22.
Yeah. 9 over 22 and equals whatever the hell that is.
So then for 3 on the practice test, if we're finding the area,
All right, wait. So let's not shift gears too much. Is this cool about, did you have another one about the uniform? Because for example, I could ask, what are you gonna tell me when I say this?
I think. And then that's 0, right?
0, right? It's got no area. Poor little dude. 11. How wide is that? 0. Say again? Why was the answer to this one 9 over 22? Where did we get that? It's 9 wide times the height, right? Because the area. How wide is 11? Why was this one 9? Because it starts at 20 and goes to 29. What does this one do? Starts at 11 and goes to 11. So how wide is it? 0.
But that's only for area, though, right?
Yeah.
Not like probability. but-
No. Area is probability. That's the key. If I draw a probability, if it's a big box, if it's a bell, if I draw the probability out and I make the whole area 1, area equals probability. That's the whole idea behind 5, which led into chapter 6. So chapter 5, if you understand that area equals probability, that's why I did that dartboard thing. Right? Smaller probability here because it's got a smaller area there. Right? I lost my train of thought, damn it. So if you understand that the area is the probability, so chapter 5 is just rectangles. So you do rectangles, yay. And then we get into freaking bell curves, not rectangles anymore. They got a saggy side, poor little thing. So we need help. That's where the chart comes in. So the chart takes the place of this work. Okay. Maybe. So that's how 5 transitions into 6. So, if there's no other specific questions about uniform, let's try out number 3. Very patriotic order. So what do you guys think about number 3? What about the first part of number 3?
So it's 2 questions, right?
Yeah.
It's asking us for 2 things.
Yep.
Okay. So, we would first find on the chart the closest number to 0.91.
Let's draw the picture first.
Okay.
So it's got 91% below it. So where is it going to be?
With 9% above it.
True.
So on the
where's it?
right.
Yeah, it's going to be way up here. So it's got a full 91% of below it. Okay. Then we're going to do like you said. And again, I think you guys see this. 0.91 looks like a frickin' z-score. Can you look up 0.91 on the like a z-score? Of course you can. Is it a z-score? No, it's a freaking area. Where are areas on the chart? They're in the middle. We're the humans. We created the numbers. Numbers don't tell us what to do. We're like, well, I know you. You're not a frickin' z-score. I'm not going to look for you out there. I'm going to look for you in here because you're an area. So somebody help me out. You have a z-score chart? What's the closest? Yeah, sounds familiar. I think it's, you can get really, really close, right? 9099 maybe? There it is. You guys see that 9099? So what the shit does that mean? What that means is, at the mean, I've got 50% below me. As I move up, don't I get more and more area that I'm passing? So really the question is, how many standard deviations do I have to go up to get a full 91% below me? I gotta go up 1.34 standard deviations. So if your height, z-score, was 1.34, you are taller than 91% of everybody else. Because heights are normally distributed, right? Okay. Now, so that's part A. Part A is pretty straightforward. Take a minute and try to draw part B. I think we did one like this before, but try to draw part B. said this before when we did this the last time, but this question, bounding the middle 91%, that is gonna be the fundamental thing we build chapter 8 on, once we get to chapter 8. I'm gonna come back to this question when we get to chapter 8 and say, look at the shit we did. Alright. So middle 91%, so it's very different from this picture. This picture is not contained. This one's gonna be contained. Middle 91%. Now what you have to understand, yes,
Well, I mean,
good.
well, I'm a little bit ahead. But, like, we have to find the one on the right and the one on the left, the area. But how are we supposed to find?
Not the area, I don't care about the area.
Yeah,
As you can see, yeah.
How are we supposed to find something like .045, like it's?
Oh, alright, so he just said a number. 0.045. What does that relate to?
How much is left outside of the middle?
Yeah, because there's 91% inside. So why do I have to do anything with that? Why can't I just look at 0.91 in the chart? Because the chart doesn't understand areas in the middle. Chart only understands areas below. Do you guys all agree with me that the question is, find this z-score, find that z-score? Alright, and the chart could help me out if I knew the area below one of those z-scores. Because that's what the hell the chart's built on. So what area is below this one?
4.5.
Yeah, because there's 9% outside, there must be 4.5% on either side. Another thing, whatever this z-score is, how will this one relate to it?
Same thing as positive.
Positive, because it's symmetric. So if I bound the middle of something, since zero's in the middle, it's symmetric, I just need to get one z-score because the other one's automatically just positive that. Does that make sense? Okay. So what do you get when you look up 0.045? In which one are you looking at, the positive or the negative?
Negative.
Negative, because I'm way the hell down here. I would accept an answer if you go between, but there's definitely a winner here, just barely. There's somebody who's closest. Negative 1.7, yeah. So this one's gonna be, yeah, positive 1.7. Now, if you don't trust me, what area is below this z-score? What area is below this z-score?
96.5.
95.5, you're right.
Ah, I was right the first
You're right.
time.
So if I look up 0.955, I could find this. Do I have to do that shit? No, it's symmetric, it's beautiful. Symmetric around zero, so if I know one side, I automatically know the other side. Okay, I like it. So if I said bounding the middle 95%, same idea. Just less area outside. I'd do the same thing though. Okay. So what about number 4? Yeah, number 4, I'll tell you what. Alright. I gave you number 4 because I wanted you to really understand that no matter what the distribution starts off as, look at 4E. What two things tell me a specific something I've got to do for 4E?
You have a sample.
Took a sample, and I'm asking about what's the question about? 4E.
Between two,
What is between 2?
the probability of X bar.
X bar, which is the
Sample mean.
sample mean. Okay, so there's the two things. Took a sample, asked about the sample mean. Those are the two things that tell you you're gonna have to do what?
Make a normal,
Change the standard deviation.
okay.
Now, you can come in, what's the n? How big is the sample? 43, and that is bigger than,
30.
so then this becomes what kind of distribution?
Normal.
Normal. So it started off uniform for damn sure. I said so. It's freaking uniform probability. But the minute I take a sample and I ask about the sample mean, now I am dealing with the means that are now normal because n is greater than 30. All right. So maybe just, I'll give you the answer key for that, but it's, like part D, you do the mean and the standard deviation, the divided by 12 thing, right? And then part E, you take that standard deviation you just got and you divide it by the square root of 43. Because like you said, sample mean, I've got to change the standard deviation. It's got to be the one that works for groups.
And if it were less than 30, then you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, technically if it's less than 30, we can't. To be honest, since it's a uniform curve, it doesn't actually have to be 30, but we don't know. There's actually some rule if your distribution starts off kind of pretty, you don't need a full 30. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, the distribution is disgusting. Then you have to have at least 30, just to be careful. But if the distribution starts off nice, isn't it a big box? Nice in its own way. It's uniform, it's symmetric, it's kind of beautiful. We did it, we took a sample size 2. Didn't it already look normal when we did that? Remember that sheet? You guys? Okay. Anyway, so the short story is, for us, we don't know shit, we got an n greater than 30. We have to have that to be sure, yeah. Here, let me go ahead and give you guys the answer key. I might as well. Let me say this, I don't know if I've said this before, I'm pretty sure I did. Don't just get this and stare at it and go, yep, that's what I would have done. Yep. Because then you're going to build up false confidence, you're going to feel like you know what you're talking about, when you really just know to agree with me. Okay.
So for part E, you'll never bring the question that's less than 30?
Well, I just.
It would have to, if I did, it would be like in a series of questions, which one of these could you do, or something, I would never give you a full-blown problem, that if you just miss one thing, you're gonna do a ton of work and waste a lot of time. I could so do that. Oh, I could so do that. But I'm not going to, that would be so evil. I don't know, give me another 10 years. Like 10 years ago, I was telling my students, check in with me 10 years from now, maybe I'll be that evil. Not quite there yet, give me another 10 years. Let me get closer to retirement and stuff, and I'll be like, all right. So it's really up to you if you have any specific things you want to look at, any general questions you've got. By the way, real quick, before I forget, the quiz average was an 80.4. See your reaction to this. The standard deviation was 23.3. No reaction. That's really big. Yes.
That's a lot.
That's big. And this is why there were 6 A's, 1 B, 1 C, 1 D, and 2 F's. Just kind of spread out. The overall average of the class right now is a 73.8. Currently, 3 people have A's, 2 people have B's, 5 people have C's. Nobody's got a D, but 3 people have an F for an overall average. is where we are.
6 A's is pretty good.
Say again?
6 A's is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
For a test.
Don't get me wrong. Well, for a quiz, still.
Four B, I think I might just be looking at it wrong, I'm a little bit confused on four B.
So, oh, good. How did you draw the picture?
Well, there's no, I'm looking at your,
Yeah, so 4A. Right,
Oh,
that's where the
so-
picture is.
okay.
Alright, so it's 1/6, right? So then the question is, and I didn't put this in the picture, to be completely honest, I remembered about half an hour before class that I still had to make this key. So I didn't quite draw as much as I normally would. But on part B, what it's asking me for is this area here, right? 4.4 to 4.7?
Yes.
Okay. And I know it's not in the right place, I don't care. So how wide is this? 0.3, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then you multiply it by 1/6.
Oh, that's
Yep.
not simple.
3/6 is 0.5, so 0.36 is 0.05. It's even tinier. Poor little dude.
Okay, I wanna ask, so you have for 5C, you have x equals mu plus z
Sigma.
sigma.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's the formula. So this, what is this formula?
Oh, to translate it to pounds.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this formula is, have I shown you guys this? A standard z-score problem, I give you a raw score, right? Like 5A1, I give you 302. You put that down, and then you make it into a z-score, right? You make that into a z-score, yes?
Yes.
With the z-score formula. Why am I writing again? It's right there. I don't know. And then you look that up in the chart to find the percentage, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, if they give me a percentage, I look that up in the chart to get the z-score,
And then multiply.
and then I use the backwards formula, because I'm going backwards, to change it back into an exponent. So I like this. I like this flow chart here, or I can go the other way. I show this and I get very muted reactions, but I don't know if this helps anybody.
Okay.
So don't I use the chart backwards when I go this way? Don't I look in the body? So I'm doing everything backwards because I started at where I normally end. I don't know. Okay. Nobody
And then
likes that.
let's go over 5D too,
5D?
if that's okay.
Yeah, why did I circled two things on 5D?
Yeah.
Why? Did I just,
So you know you have to change the, standard deviation.
Mhm.
Standard deviation.
because again, tell me guys, what's the trigger to do sigma divided by square root of n? I take a sample
Sample mean.
and ask about the sample mean. So there, took a sample of 33, and my question is, probability, sample mean, gray, oh shit, okay. Immediately change the standard deviation, because the one that I gave you is for individuals. Now I'm talking about groups of 33. Yes, maybe. And then, I mean, do you see the work between, well, I didn't really put the work up there, did I? That's, so 5A, the picture, the work is exactly the same as 5D, except in 5D, I'm using the new standard deviation, the one that's for groups.
Okay. And then in 6, we go back to the long formula, right, using C
Yeah, 6 is a binomial. I like putting 6 where I did. Just to remind you, I don't have to give you problems in order, right? They could be whatever order I feel. So number 6 is a binomial problem. Yeah.
Okay.
And the min and the max, usual values, that's an idea you're supposed to know. How far do you have to go out from where to get to the min and max usual?
2.
1 and 2.
2.
To what?
Standard deviation.
From the
Mean.
mean, I like it. So 2 steps out, and that gets to the realm of, anything past that would be considered officially unusual. Which really makes sense. The standard deviation is the average distance from the mean to all the data points. So if I got 2 of those things, anything outside of it is gonna be like, what the shit are you doing way down here? So for heights, 2 standard deviation, unusual heights are those, 7 foot something or other dudes, or the 4 foot dude, right? Unusually tall, unusually short. Yeah. I always feel so bad for you. I make you all so angry or sad. I don't know under this. Oh well. Gotta keep Allison up here. Like, for example, just to show you what I did, because I was running out of time, but 5D number 2. I think I did this, yeah, I did this in 5A number 2. I didn't really show the z-score formula or draw the picture. I just quickly got the z-scores and then, right, so you kind of check your work. But I highly recommend you draw the picture. If you don't draw the picture, I'm not going to take points off. But if you don't draw the picture and get something wrong, you're going to lose more points because I have less to go on as to what went wrong. Yeah. So if I got that one wrong, I would take more points off of me.
So for D2, it's basically like what you did for D1, but you did it for both numbers?
Yeah, exactly. So I did that z-score formula for 274, 292. Yeah. I just didn't write it all down.
Are we doing a lesson Tuesday too, or is it just the test?
Just, or do you want a lesson?
No, just curious.
No. No, you'll have the whole time for the test if you
Okay.
need it, yeah.
Okay.
How are your other classes going? Are you guys, do you have other tests, or have you already had your second test in your other classes?
Yeah.
I
Got
got
it.
my second test on the same day as this test, like what was last time, so.
I was curious about that, because we
Yeah.
do get together, all the faculty, at our Senate meetings,
Yeah.
and we try to line up the tests to all be on the same day.
Do you really?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, why would you do that?
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, just
real
another
fun.
layer of evil, sorry.
And I have another one, I had to take this one like literally 10 minutes later, so I'm just like.
I understand, trust me, I understand.
But-
I felt the same way as a student, I'm like, they have to be freaking doing this on purpose. I have 3 tests in a row in the same day and a freaking essay and, freak.
I feel like I kind of was expecting it to end up that way because both of the classes are like doing all, like they're completely different structures and stuff, but everything's like happening at the same time.
Is
your
math class too?
No, it's French class.
Oh, wow.
So
I
it's
like
like
that.
entirely different.
I'm in
and
harmony
it's,
with
like,
the French class.
The exact
Oh,
same
oui,
thing.
oui.
Je ne sais pas.
I don't know what.
Je vais à la plage. That's all I remember. I go to the beach.
Can
So
you-
hard to learn French classes.
Can you do 2D just with the equation, just so I don't get confused?
You mean, let's see, 2D.
Or, I'm sorry, 5D.
Oh, I see, 5D2, I got you. It's
Yeah.
like a legal document. Subparagraph A, line 7. Yeah, so this one's says, so let me show you all the, get out of there, all the work you should show. What was this one? 292. So really, you should, and again, if you don't, I'm not gonna take points off just because you didn't, but you should draw the picture. So the mean is still 281.2. I want 270, or did I draw the picture? No, I thought about it, and then I'm like, no. 274, 292. Oh yeah, I drew it up there, didn't I? Yeah, okay. So this is the area I want. So it's like in the meat of it, right? It's in the meat of this thing. It's where a lot of stuff is. So maybe it's going to be kind of, it's hard to tell. And then I want to convert both of these to z-scores. So to do 274 would be my data point minus the mean divided by the new standard deviation, which I think was that, right? Yeah, because in part D, we're doing the 33 houses. Yeah, there's the formula. And double check me. Let's see if past Jeff got this. So I got 1.2, negative 1.2. When you do your z-scores, don't just cut them, you gotta round them. So don't just cut them off, right? If the next number is 5 or more, you gotta round it up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and is that cool? And the same thing for the 292. And that was the one I got 1.8, I believe.
Is that when you go into the z-score chart,
Yep.
find them and then subtract them?
So now you find this area, which is gonna be too much, and you find this area, which is exactly how much too much, you subtract them, and you end up with that area. So that's the numbers that I was subtracting. So this came out to be 9641, and this came out to be 8849, is that right? Wait a minute, am I looking at the right thing? Oh, I can't, well, there's a mistake I made. So how did I tell that I made a mistake if this is what I got there? Yeah, it should be less than 50%, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's correct me. I think what I did was I looked up 1.2, not negative 1.2. So what do you get when you look up negative 1.2? Yeah, that's exactly what you did past Jeff. What do you guys get? Negative 1.20?
0.1151?
1151. So now it should be this. So whatever that is. So I'm still averaging about a 97 on my answer keys. Not too bad.
.8490.
And by the way, I'm gonna pretend for a minute, not fully, let's pretend for a minute I did this on purpose. Do you see how easy it was for me to catch that mistake because I had the picture? I don't know how lame this is, but I'm gonna make this into a teachable moment. With the picture, that was a quick freaking mistake to notice. I'm like, there ain't no way that's 88%, what the hell's wrong with you? And past Jeff, I was going too fast, didn't draw a picture, didn't catch that simple mistake. You guys doing okay out there? I mean, if you, everybody think for just a minute, just a couple seconds here. What is the one thing you understand the least, would you say? Is there something you have the least confidence in?
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7, that makes sense, because it's the newest stuff, stuff we
Chapter
haven't done as
4.
much. Chapter 4, because it's a while back? All right, that'll- so we got the brand new shit we haven't had time to work with, and the old shit that we've forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. The real key thing, and I, I don't really apologize for this, but there's just no way around it, especially for me, because I want you to understand why things happen. Chapter 7 is just like chapter 6, like Audrey was pointing out earlier. They're the same thing. There's just one difference. You change the standard deviation. The work is exactly the frickin' same, yes? I couldn't start like that because then you might pay less attention to me trying to explain why this kind of works. Why does the mean stay the same? Why does standard deviation change? Let's see a concrete example, blah, blah, blah. But this is chapter 7. The only way I know it's chapter 7 is that's not the same standard deviation they gave me. It's the new one that we made, right? In chapter 4, again, it might be just because you haven't looked at it in a while. But that's number 1 is chapter 4. Number 1 and number 6 are the two from chapter 4. All right, the X, P of X stuff. Some of you guys still sort of like that 4th column. Some of you guys still just kind of do something. You're like, I don't know. But you got to pick a way. You got to pick something right now. So what I did, so I'm going to always give you this. Oh, sorry, Blue. Come here, Blue. All right. Oh, you're about to sing. I'm always going to give you this, and then I'm going to give you 2 blank columns. This is obviously going to be what?
X times P of X.
Because the mean is the sum of X times P of X. So I need a bunch of freaking X P of X's so I can add them up. The standard deviation formula requires me to sum up this shit. So I need this shit here. That's what this is going to be. Does that mean I just square this to get that last column?
No.
Because what would I get if I squared this?
X times P of X squared.
Which is X squared, P squared. I don't need X squared, P squared. Right? So you could either square this one times this one, or you could just multiply L1 times L3, because that would be X squared P of X. I mean, just know what you want to get and make sure that it actually gets you what you need. Yes?
So the 4th row is L1 times by L3, and then
Yeah.
the 3rd one is L1 times by L2.
Yeah, so this is L1, L2, and this is L1 times L3. Remember, I gave you that chart, that handout about the emails and the stuff. I don't know if you guys remember that. That actually has the L1s and stuff listed up there. Okay. Is that better? I don't know if I really did much to help you with that, but
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think I did really, really bad on the homework for that one. So I'm like, I thought I understood it, but I clearly don't.
yeah, and again, as somebody pointed out, the homework, one reason that homework is a big part of this class is because you're gonna do several problems in homework that you never really do again on a test or quiz, because that would be impossible. Because then my test would be a week-long experience to cover every possible problem you've ever seen. So the homework is gonna push you in certain directions. And to really understand the base idea, you have to be pushed in a little directions. So that's what the homework is for, is to kind of like really kind of show you all the different ways that things could look. And then I try to make the test a little more straightforward than some of the homework problems are. So the homework is always going to be a little bit harder, almost always going to be a little bit harder. because that's what it's supposed to be
I
for.
think mostly what I was missing was how to calculate like the greater or less than ones. Like I was one of those people that like found the exact one and was thinking.
Oh,
I could do
yeah,
something with it,
okay.
Which is definitely not true.
Well, in these problems, if I said, alright, let's say I got this, and then I don't even tell you this. Well, how would you find the probability x is greater than 2?
You would like add all the ones that were greater than 2 up.
You could.
with the 3.
Or, now once makes sense, what would all of these, what do they all have to add up to be? Let's say 1, and close to 1, but let's say 1 for this, right? So doesn't this plus all of this equal 1?
Yes,
And you're currently telling me this question wants all of these, yes?
yeah,
Wouldn't that be 1 minus 0.02 would be this?
yes.
There. So I don't even care what these are. I know the probability x greater than 2 because I know what 2's probability is. So the greater than 2 must be everything else. 1 minus that.
Okay, that makes sense.
That kind of is the whole idea of the 1 minus thing. The question they want has too much work. Let me just do 1 minus the opposite. Same, it's the same thing. Maybe? All right. Now, if we get to a point where all your questions have been answered, you're free to go because it's just the way college works. This is all about getting ready for that test. So I see a few of you guys looking at me like, wrap it up. I'm like, it's wrapped up whenever you want it to be. It's wrapped up.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
I'll catch you Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm just looking at like all the corrections on the 4.3 homework and I got back and I was like, yeah, I didn't know how to do it.
Oh, 4-3. Okay, that's the binomial stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it was the same principle though. I didn't understand that you were supposed to like add all of them up and
Oh.
everything. I like thought that, I don't know what I was thinking.
Because that was like one of the first examples we did today, right? Was the
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, because that's why I asked you. I was like, I definitely like messed that up really bad. I don't know why how exactly it actually.
Yeah,
was.
and of course that happened many times in the homework. So if you didn't get that idea, you're gonna get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was doing the homework and I was like, I don't know, but at least I'm gonna turn it in. It's better than nothing. And figure out whether or not I actually really don't know, and I really don't know.
Well, that's
so.
yeah, that's a good idea. Because then I can give you some idea of what you didn't quite get.
I ended up missing.
I'm actually thinking about taking that homework against like a study.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's fine with me.
I ended up missing the chapter 4 quiz. Can I just use the quiz corrections for that and then? hope
Well,
that
no, the way that
scramble?
works, I mean, I could get. Did I give you one copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could do it if you want to. It's not gonna count for anything, so what's gonna happen is the grade you make on the next test is gonna also count for that. So it's not gonna be zeros, because whatever you make on the test. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
So your
yeah.
test grade's just gonna count a little more to cover for that missing quiz grade.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.